Hi, friends. Hello. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Mark. From your Tacoma. Nice. I'll have you know I've never driven a Corolla or I've never owned a Toyota, but I'm sure they're fine because I know they're reliable. I hope that your week is going okay so far. Midweek. We have a few more days until the weekend. Hopefully wherever you are, the weather's okay. And it's not too cold or too wintry or whatever the weather is doing in your region because I don't get it. But we'll chill and hang out together. We'll get through it. We'll play with stationery and yeah, we'll just hang out and have a relaxing, sort of calm Wednesday stream. If you were here on Monday, I streamed on Monday and I did some planning and journaling. Well, mostly journaling and some drawing as well in my Hemlock and Oak planner. So if that's interesting to you, if you're into planning or journaling or other kinds of stationery, because as much as I love fountain pens, I love all of my stationery, paper, pens, markers, brush pens, all sorts of things. So if you're into other things as well, or if you're curious, join me on Mondays. We'll do some journaling together. We'll do some art, drawing, and I'll talk about other kinds of stationery that I use as well. But today we will focus a little bit more on fountain pens, which is a big part of my life. So I love sharing how I use my fountain pens and use the ink some creatively as well. Hey Skogsy, how's it going? Great to hear your voice. I can't wait to see you guys at the next pen show, whichever one we're gonna both be at. Yeah, it's good to have you in stream. It's been a little while. I hope your week is going well. And yeah, so today I wanted to, speaking of Skogsy, I will be talking a little bit about one of your fountain pens, which I've inked up for this month. I actually have a few of these inked up consistently, and I'll talk a little bit about how I sort of choose my fountain pens, how I decide on what inks to ink them up with. And I usually do this on a monthly basis. So if you're kind of, if you have a collection or you want to start a collection, these are some things to think about before you dive into the rabbit hole. And if you're in the rabbit hole with me, then let's do some currently inked. Let's talk about fountain pens and different kinds of nibs, how you can use them, and what other things you can do with them, like drawing, right? Oh, Mark, you're streaking. Hat trick stream. Awesome. Yeah, I've been swamp planning to be in LA, Baltimore, Chicago, DC, SF, and Orlando. Wow, you're gonna be so busy. I can imagine how busy that's gonna be. DC and SF too. Oh man. Are you doing any stationery fests or other events in between? Or is it pen shows for you this year? Yeah, but good luck on prepping. I know it's a lot of work, so you're in demand. So get on it. Get on it. Hi, RKO Pen. How's it going? No stationery fest, unfortunately. I feel like you probably don't need any more events that you have to prep for. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. But it'll be fun, right? Like, as much as a lot of work goes into prepping for pen shows and events and stuff, it's like, this is what you like to do, right? This is a hobby. This is a way that you can enjoy and also, share what you make with other people and stuff. And I feel the same, like pen shows are overwhelming sometimes and a lot, but it's almost like, once you're done, you can't wait to go back and do it all over again. And, the people are amazing. So it's so much fun. So we are going to do, like I said, we're going to do a currently inked we're going to talk about fountain pens, and I'm going to do a currently inked spread. So if you want to do it along with me, grab your fountain pens. If you're at work or you're busy or you have me sort of on in the background, that's fine. I hope, me talking through this and showing you my process maybe also encourages you to do it on your free time, or anytime you kind of want to take out your fountain pens and play with them a little bit. An easy way of doing that is to do a currently inked spread, or what I like to call a notably inked spread. So if you are one of those people that ink up, multitude of pens for whatever reason, and you don't want to go through all of them to do a currently inked, page because it would just be too much, then I would encourage you to just pick out the pens that you think are notably inked for that month. So, they're special because they're a special kind of pen, they're a new pen, or you've decided to try a new type of nib, or you have a new ink in one of your pens and you kind of want to showcase that. So I usually do a currently inked spread of all of my pens that I have inked up because I don't have that many inked up. But I also tend to do a notably inked spread in case I do have, a large amount of pens inked up and I don't want to, or I feel like there are some pens in there that I inked up for that month for a special reason, just because I want to play with them and explore them a little bit more. And this is what I do for a notably inked spread. I usually draw with the fountain pen, as well as write down what the fountain pen is, what the ink I have inside that pen, and what nib I have in the pen as well. So we're going to do that together. I'll show you how we do it, and we'll talk about the pens I have inked up as we go. Do you know what shows you will be at this year? Well, I will be at the Stationery Fest in SF. So SF Stationery Fest in March. I'm going to be teaching a workshop there, so that will be sort of announced and rolled out, but it is available on their site. And planning on going to the SF Pen Show as long as, things work out. And hopefully maybe the PNW Pen Show in July. Because I went last year, but I only ended up going for sort of a day-ish. And it was a road trip that my whole family was on, so obviously I couldn't stay for too long. But hopefully this year I'll get to go and stay longer and kind of enjoy it a little bit more. And I think that's it. I would love to go to more pen shows. I would love to go to pen shows in Canada, because that's where I am. But getting to a pen show on the East Coast in Canada costs a lot. It takes a long time, and it's a lot of commitment for usually a one-day event. So probably not going to happen this year, but maybe a future year. So I will probably see you in SF, right, Skogsy? Hi, Fountain Pen News. How's it going? I'm almost half human again after Philly. Oh, man, yeah. I'm sure that was a whirlwind of just so much. But that's good. You got to see friends. You got to see people in the community. That's awesome. And I don't know if you shared your haul, Fountain Pen News. Did you pick up something that you're really excited for? Mark, draw some dragons also. Flowers and dragons. Oh, I love Canada too. I'll let you in on a secret, Mark. And don't tell everyone. I don't know how to draw. This is just a fluke. I can draw flowers somehow, but I don't actually know how to draw things. So drawing a dragon for me would take forever because, yeah, I would have to take my time with it for sure. Skogsy, come to Colorado. Everyone wants Skogsy. SF is one of our favorite shows. Yeah, see you there. SF is such a great time. Overwhelming, but a great time. I also have a spinal injury right now. Oh no, so I was with a walker the whole trip. That sounds very exhausting, Fountain Pen News. I hope you recover quickly. And yeah, sending good vibes because that would be tough. That would be tough. You're calling BS on it, Mark? Here's a big... You bought a Mont Blanc? Wow. That's amazing. And congrats. Yeah. GHP, join the club. Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, GHP. I appreciate you. Welcome to the club again. I named my Walker Texas Ranger. Yeah, that would be that would be a good one. I guess I'll just be stalking you online. Yeah. Let's just stalk all of Skogsy's drops, which I already do. But I always wait for the in-person, you know, where I can kind of peruse and touch all the pens. I don't touch all the pens. Amazing. Yeah, I can't wait for pen shows. Oh, I was gonna say fountain pen use when you mentioned, what kind of Mont Blanc is it? Because I handled my first one last week, and it was a 149 with a calligraphy nib, and a curved calligraphy. And I think I've heard of it before, but I've never tried it or, you know, have seen much about it. But oh man, it was so fun to write with and draw even. Like I was very careful handling it because MB, but it was so much fun. And what did you ink it up with? Does that joke translate to Walker Texas Ranger? Yeah, it does. At least to me. I think it's more the age thing. Maybe if you're as old as some people. I bought my Mont Blanc in the last 10 minutes of the show. Whoa. Was it one that you had been eyeing for the week or for the weekend? 144 Classique Ceramics Prisma. Oh my goodness, with a mother of pearl star. Is that a well-known... I don't think I've ever heard of this. Let me see. This sounds so pretty. Oh, yeah. That's very pretty. Very classic. Classique. I like it. Good job. Aziza was eyeing it but didn't buy it. Ugh. And you were like, you know what? I'm just gonna snatch it. That's awesome. You won't be able to find it. Yeah, I didn't find the exact one, but definitely saw the shape of that one. But that is so cool. Well, I can't wait for you to share more about it and ink it up and do all the things that we do with new pens, right? I can't wait to see more about it. So as we get into currently inked stuff, let me know what you have currently inked, what you're using that you are excited about, inks that you're excited about. I'm always happy to hear about inks people are using that I might want to try or look up at least, and put on my list. She said she recognized me from my dirty wear shorts and gave me a disc. You know what? That's awesome. Sid, sorry. That's awesome. Yeah. And you were there in like the last 10 minutes. So that's kind of like, well, you know, you're serious about it. Why not? Sid's making a sale. I inked it up with the Scriptus ink that Aziza gifted me. Oh, amazing. That would be really, really nice. I have kind of a lot. Yeah. So, my currently inked I was doing last year. If you ever sort of caught my streams where I was doing these spreads, I was doing in the Musubi Rasa notebook. So the paper is called Rasa. And I got this notebook at the SF Pen Show in 2023 or 2022 maybe. No, 2023. And I started using it pretty much right away because I wanted to test the paper. I wanted to try it out. It was really nice with fountain pens. So at the SF Pen Show, I actually I went to one of the tester pen tables. And this one happened to be the one that Brad set up or filled up. So I tried all of the inks on this paper and I was like, you know what? This paper is really good. And so I decided to use this for currently inked and also fountain pen review. So every month, at the end of the month, I would look back at the previous month. No, at the start of every month, I would look back at the previous month, and I would do a quick sort of review on how many ink bottles I have currently in my collection, fountain pens, and ink samples. Just as a point of interest, but also to keep tabs on how many, so what I was acquiring, obviously, so how many pens and things I was getting. And it's very interesting to do that month over month, unless you don't want to know your number, and then just keep it in Fountain Pen Companion and don't look at it. But I'm so much like, I'm really into data and numbers and like knowing where collections stand and stuff. So for me, it's interesting to see it month over month, and sort of where during the month I tend to acquire more things like pens and inks. And spoiler, it's usually around SF pen show or, you know, another sort of pen show that I'm attending, which makes sense, but also it's great. So I did this for 2023, 2024, and 2025, and have decided that I'm going to move on from doing this specific kind of spread. So this is my last, wait, let me see. This was the last spread that I made last month. And it sort of stood here. And I found that, I guess with the winter months, as it was getting colder, the year was drawing to a close, I was just inking up less pens than I normally do. On average, I like to have about 15 pens inked, and most of them will have different nibs and different purposes. But I found that around October, November, I was keeping around 10 fountain pens inked up. And it's just, you know, the times, just less journaling, maybe less, I was exploring my pens a little bit less, and that's fine. You know, it is what it is. You kind of have to go with the flow. But I just found that doing this spread with my currently inked, and then also doing this spread where I was writing the exact same thing, the pens, the ink, and the nib, and then just doing a quick flower doodle. I just didn't want to do both spreads, I guess, month over month for this year. So I'm going to put this notebook aside and repurpose it. You know, there could be a future sort of use for it, or I'll come back to this and do currently inked in the future. In my stream last week, where we were testing this notebook or sort of playing around in this notebook and another Musubi notebook with Takagami natural paper, which is unbleached, undyed, and it's like a warm brownish paper color because it's natural. So I was testing that paper and kind of comparing against this one for no reason except that they're two Musubi notebooks. But I found that the bleed through and the ghosting on this paper when I was painting with fountain pen inks makes me sort of think that I'm not going to use this notebook for painting, just because I think I'd rather use it for writing in, which is what this paper is actually really, really good for, is writing with fountain pens, taking notes in it, that kind of thing. So I think I will just put it aside, and then, you know, when I decide maybe I want to take it back out for something, I'll use it. So that's my story about this notebook. But, you know, it's still a point of interest for me to write down my currently inked and where my collection stands. And that I will continue to do, just not in this notebook. Hi, Geez, how's it going? Also, my Schaefer Legacy that I dropped that every Nibmeister said was beyond repair is fixed. Yay! You should get a clap for that. That's awesome. Oh, it's so sad if, like, you could just never get a pen like that fixed, right? I'm glad that you were able to get it fixed. And whoever did it, good on them. You have to narrow down what you want to know about, as I'm now up to 27 pens currently inked. GHP. That's awesome. Well, tell me what your most recent pen is that you inked up, or what you're reaching for most. Like what are the one or two pens that you're using the most? I'm curious. Of the 27 pens, I have about 10 inked, Mark. A couple dried out, like the Kakuno, which dries out so fast. Yeah, but it's a good pen, isn't it? Yeah, Mike Dago from Mad Mercantile is alert. Oh, was it Mike? Yes. Oh, Mike is awesome. Mike is awesome. Yeah. I like chatting with him at pen shows. And I have gotten a couple vintage pens, and this is one of them. This is from Mike from Mad Mercantile. Have you ever used Koji paper? I have not, GHB. I saw you ask that in Brad's stream, and I was hoping, I don't know if you got an answer, but I was hoping people would share if they did, because I too am curious. And I saw that Sterling Ink is dropping Koji paper notebooks. I do like Sterling Ink notebooks. I don't know if I would order them, but I am very curious to see what people think. I guess once the drop happens and people order them, we'll see more about them. But yeah, I was like, did anyone use them yet? I would love to know. I just purchased some Cosmo Air Snow from Jet Pens. Do you find that paper to be good for painting? I haven't tried Cosmo Air Snow, Carol. I've tried Cosmo Air Light, but like the previous sort of OG type, I guess, that they're no longer going to be using or printing, making. So I have tried Cosmo Air Light, but also I've tried paper that's like similar, I guess. Like Irful seems to be somewhat similar to Cosmo Air Light a little bit. I also found the Rasa paper to be a little bit similar to Cosmo Air Light from Musubi. So I mean, you know, there are comparables out there, and in general, that type of paper, the paper that's similar to Cosmo Air Light, for me is pretty good for painting. And personally, I don't really like writing on it because it has a shiny sort of smooth texture that, you know, feels a little bit like squeaky if I was going to write on it. And so if I do write on that type of paper, it's not for journaling. It's just like for writing things down, like quick, you know, short sort of things. But for painting, I actually kind of like it. And it's because the paper is smooth and non-textured. And so if you're painting, it's like, you know, you can sort of move around the elements, whether you're using ink or watercolor. And it sort of sits on top before it dries, so it's easy to blend if you're doing like wet on wet. So you're adding ink or paint while it's wet on the paper. And I find it's easy to manipulate that way. And then the other thing too with Cosmo Air Light-esque kind of paper is that when it does dry, the paint or the ink, I feel like it's very vibrant for the most part. There are some inks, maybe muted tones or lighter inks that may not look as, you know, bright and shiny on the paper. But if it has secondary properties like shimmer or sheen or something like that, I find the Cosmo Air Light is really good at sort of reflecting that. So that's my take on Cosmo Air Light in terms of painting. I do kind of like it that way. I literally cried. It writes better than before. Oh man, I can imagine. Much of my currently inked is driven by inks and colors. Yeah, at least as much as by liking my pens and nibs. Finding ink pen nib pairings that brings me joy. Yeah, that's exactly it, GHP. I feel like it's a process too, right? Like finding pairings that work really well for you, for the purpose that you want to use them for, but also in the moment. Like sometimes that changes, especially ink colors. Me personally, I find that I tend to be drawn towards certain colors and shades throughout the year because of, you know, seasons, if it's really bright or gloomy out. So that kind of thing too, on top of, you know, if I'm using it for journaling or like note-taking or something like that. So Cosmo Air Light necessitates Cosmo Air Dark. Cosmo Air Heavy, yeah. Maybe like a 120 GSM version. My newest pen is Leonardo and Momento Zero Grand with an elastic EF nib. Ooh, that sounds really fun. That I've got inked up with Kyoto Tag number 5. Little Craft Place just got Kyoto Tag and I really like getting a few of them. That's awesome. Yeah. Kyoto, Tasha. Very cool. How is the elastic EF nib? How are you finding it? I think you've mentioned too your writing is small, right? If I'm not mistaken. I feel like you said something about you like to write small, which the EF would be, I can imagine, would be really, really fun. So continuing my little spiel about moving on from the Musubi notebook, this leads me to what I am using this year for, so I'm using the Plotter Square. This cover I got at the California Pen Show last year. I was a limited sort of show cover. And it's, I got it because I wanted to use it as sort of a portable way of sampling inks at shows or wherever I kind of go at meetups and things like that. And so for this year, I'm using it as my hobbies journal or hobbies tracker. Anything related to fountain pens or any of my hobbies sort of go in here. And it's great because it is portable, but also it's a ring system. So I can add paper, take away paper, share paper with people if I have to, you know, that kind of thing. So that to say, on top of taking it to places, right? It's super, super easy to grab and go. I'm also doing this sort of rolling currently inked spread, I guess, or log. Currently inked log is more like it. So anytime I ink up a fountain pen, I just do a sort of, you know, how you would do like a writing sample or something like that. I just note down what pen, nib, and ink it is. And it's just a rolling sort of, it just keeps going. So it's not necessarily pens that I still have inked up in the month. It's just that they at some point were inked up in that month. And so it just keeps going. And then at some point I'll put February and then just keep going. And I find that this works over doing it in, you know, an A5 notebook, because if I can take this with me to pen shows or meetups or things like that, and let people try out the pens that I have, then I can easily refer to what inks are in there, because it's one of those things where, you know, on the spot, people are like, oh, what ink is this? It's so pretty. I always have this moment where like, wait, what is the ink? And so this is kind of an easy way of just being like, this is what I have inked up this month. And if for some reason I didn't enjoy the ink or, you know, whatever sort of happened, then it's fine. I just, you know, keep moving on. So this is kind of my rolling currently inked log. And there are so many different ways of using a ring system like this. So last year when I first got it, I then took it to the SF Pen Show. And so when I got to sample other people's pens, you know, when I also got a nib grind from Kirk at Pen Realm, I was trying out some of the other nibs that were in tester pens. And so it's just kind of a fun way of documenting, capturing, but also, you know, this is something I can refer to throughout the year to sort of remember, like, this is what I tried out. This is what I really enjoyed. And hopefully, you know, build on that a little bit. My writing is small. The elastic EF has been great. Being a Western EF, it's not super thin or narrow. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. But that's okay because it's fun to write with. And I feel like an EF elastic gives you just a little bit of give when you're writing, that it doesn't feel like, like it's very stiff or anything like that. Yeah, it shows off shading properties. Especially with an EF where, you don't necessarily see all of the properties. A couple of my newest inks that I've been really pleased with are Sailor, Yurimiku, Itazora. Oh yeah, I think I had a sample of that at some point. Waringuo, Call of and Tasha. That's amazing. Let me see this Waringuo. They all sound amazing. And I don't think I've tried any of the other inks. Gold Spot. Ah. Ooh, that's nice. I like that. Very cool. Like very dark, moody. But I like the green. Like the dark green coming out too. That's awesome. And then, let's see, what is this? The deepest of purple blacks. Is it this one? Ooh, purple black is nice. Yeah, especially if you can see the purple. Sometimes it's tough to get, especially depending on the nib that you're using, it's tough to sort of see that purple come out. But when you can, I guess if you sort of write long form journaling and stuff, as you keep writing, you'll see a more sort of desaturated version or less saturated. And then you kind of see those colors and shades coming through, which is really pretty. That's really nice. I am definitely liking the dark colors recently. The 14K Leonardo elastic is super great. Awesome. I haven't tried a Leonardo elastic nib. And I would love to. Like, I'm super curious about trying them out. I haven't yet, but I have heard good things about them. You guys, I took 18 flex pens to Philly, not including any other pens. You are the flex nib queen, though, fountain pen news. I wouldn't expect any less from you. That's a lot, though. I'm up over 200 inks now. I'm creeping up there. So that's what I aspire to. If you want a sample you don't have, oh, that's awesome. Thanks, GHP. I think it has the most tremendous moody red sheen to go with that dark green. Oh, yeah, I like that. That's awesome. So good. In my Hobonichi this year, I write the weather at the top. Yeah, the gratitude statements are fun to glance back over. Helps keeps you looking for positive things in daily life. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. I used a Hobonichi 5-year journal last year, and it was my 4th year in the 5-year journal. And for 4 years, I was using it for gratitude because I wanted to get into the habit of being grateful for little things throughout the day and calling them out, like acknowledging them. Because obviously, we're always grateful for things in our lives because it makes things easier, it makes things more enjoyable, makes us happy. But acknowledging them brings them sort of to the forefront of, you do have good things that happen during the day, even if you are going through hard times or you are feeling stress. Things can get very hard. And things are hard, but there are ways to sort of, in your routine or your practice, to think about and acknowledge the small moments that make us smile and that make us happy. So I started using that as sort of, being grateful for things. And I found that I was writing things down that were very big. So I would be like, well, I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for my house, and, et cetera, et cetera. And not acknowledging those things almost made me feel like I was taking them for granted, until I read a post by Morgan Harper Nichols, who's an author, an artist, a musician, and just so encouraging and motivating. And she wrote about today's little joys. And basically, it's the idea of acknowledging and finding little moments in our day that bring us joy, that normally, we would sort of glance over, or we would forget about it by the end of the day. And it could be something really small, like, you're walking down the street and you see a leaf on the ground that is the shape of a heart or something. And in the grand scheme of things, it might not mean a lot, but in that day, it brought you just a little bit of joy. Maybe it made you smile, maybe it made you laugh. And acknowledging that is important, because it turns out that the more you sort of notice these things in life, they can add up to realizing that, you can find joy throughout the day. And so I found that really helpful, to just write them down whenever I sort of come across something that I like. My kid said something silly and I laughed, or something like that. And just writing it down made my day so much more, I don't know, it just gave a little bit more depth, I guess. And so for this year, I'm not putting it in my 5-year. I sort of retired my 5-year after 4 years of using it, because I rolled it into my daily journal in my traveler's notebook. And I just thought, now that it has become a habit, right? After years of, getting myself to think about those things, and picking out little moments throughout the day that I was grateful for, or I was happy about, or brought me joy, and writing them down. Now it's a habit that I just do naturally, right? It has become a habit. And so I've rolled it into my journaling practice. At the end of the day, I just sit down, write a little bit about something that stood out in the day, and then I put in today's little joys. And it's just going to be something small, or something, something that kind of stood out to me. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that, Mark. And all to say, starting somewhere with that kind of practice is really helpful, because if you keep it up, and you write those small little things, then hopefully, it sort of brings you a little bit more happiness, or brings you a little bit, or makes you more aware of the joys that you do have. And yeah, just makes days a little bit more interesting and also happy. That's what people always want to see from me, is flex. Yeah, I would. I mean, if, we met up at a pen show or something, I'd be like, show me your flex. Because I personally don't have any real flex nibs. I have semi-flex kind of nibs, but nothing that I would be like, ooh, this is very flex. So I would love to kind of compare and try them out and stuff. Helps my ADHD and concept of time continuation. Yeah, I find it is helpful, and a really good general practice as well. So we don't perceive time since the same since 2020. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of things we don't perceive the same, especially when something jarring happens, and we're kind of thrown out of our expectation of how things should be, and how life should be, how we live our lives. And a lot of times, we get distracted by things that we shouldn't get distracted by, or things where it's like, you're worrying about things that you have no control over. And it's good to kind of ground yourself in a practice where you're thinking about good things that happen in your life, and maybe at certain points of the day, like you said, Mark, to kind of, ground you throughout the day. Check back in with yourself and, yeah. Be present. Notice the seasons passing. Yeah. The moment you're in and be there. Yeah. That's exactly it. You'll miss it when you're looking back. Yeah. It's kind of nice to look back on those kinds of memories too. Because a lot of times when it comes to journaling, we think about, oh, well, I'm just going to write down things when I'm really upset or when I'm angry or, bad things have happened, because journaling can help you sort of sift through those emotions. But it should also be a practice, I think, where, if you're happy or you've had really good things happen, or coincidences that made you sort of, take a step back and notice. I feel like journaling is a good practice for those times as well. Because, it's nice to kind of look back on those memories too, to be like, oh yeah, I forgot that even happened. Like just, really fun memories. I saw 2 hummingbirds chasing each other over the weekend. We were at a park, and it's winter in Canada, so it's very, very cold. And there's frost everywhere and things like that. But yeah, there were these 2 hummingbirds that were chasing each other around me. They're really loud. I don't know if you've seen a hummingbird up close. They're really fast, and the sound of their wings is really loud. But they're so cute, and they're really fast. They just kind of flit around, and they're gone before you know it. So I just thought it was really cool, and I wrote that in my journal. So isn't it always winter in Canada? Excuse me, except for 1 month a year, probably around July, August. We have a few weeks where it's really hot, sometimes humid, but no, it's generally cold. Generally cold, or in the Vancouver area, it gets mild. I lived in Toronto, Ontario for a long time, and so I got used to the extreme cold that they're having now, and I'm not jealous of it at all. But in the BC area, in BC, it can get mild. Like, it's actually not too bad. We can get through it. Their heart beats so fast, it sounds like a humming. Oh, I know, that's so cute. BC is absolutely gorgeous. I do love it here. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing with my pens. And I usually like to do it in kind of a rainbow, or like, the colors sort of make sense to me. So let's see what we have. We'll start with this one, because this one's super, super nice, and one of my favorite all-time pens, probably, and my only Leonardo, Momento Zero. This one I have had inked up month over month. So if you've joined these streams where I do currently inked before, then you will have seen this, because I have not stopped inking it up for like a year. But this one is a Momento Zero with a reverse architect nib that was ground by Gena from Custom Nib Studio. And I have it inked up again with J. Herbin Lidete. And it is a really nice brown color. And so you'll see in this pen, very, like, just consistently reliable ink as well. And so I love the combination of the ink with the pen, but also just, the ink itself is a really, really good ink. So we're going to start with that. And with this spread, what I usually do is I do a quick sort of doodle or drawing of flowers. And it's just a way for me, similar to if you were doing a currently inked spread, and you could do shapes and curves and things like that. It's just to get a feel for the nib. So if it is custom ground, to behave a certain way, I like to test it out with drawing as well as writing. Just to see how the nib handles having to do sort of loops and curves. Does it feel smooth? Do the transitions kind of feel nice? Unless it's a nib that I specifically just need for writing. Maybe it's like a sharp italic or something like that, where it's like you just want to do calligraphy with it. You don't necessarily need to draw or do, art with it. Then I sort of, leave it be. But even then, I kind of like to push my nibs a little bit to get a feel for how they react to, certain ways of writing. So, but this is one of my favorite nibs and pens because the pen is beautiful, but also the nib writes really, really well. And so on the correct side of writing, it's like a fine line. And then on the reverse, that's why it's called a reverse architect. On the reverse is an architect grind. And it's because it's sort of customized to the way I write or write with this nib. I had it sort of smoothed out a little bit, so it's more of a rounded architect than sharp. So that way I can kind of use it in a way that makes it a little bit smoother for me. So, and that's the great thing about getting nibs ground, is that you can customize it to your writing and the style that you're going to write with that nib. So that's the Momento 0 Reverse Architect. Then we have, so I have 12 pens inked up in total for the month. And so I think I'm just, usually what I do is I pick out just a few of them, or like 6 to 8 of them that I do the spread with. But I think I'm going to do all of them just because I'm not doing a separate currently inked spread. This is technically my currently inked / notably inked spread. So all of my pens are notable for January. So we'll do the spread with all of my pens. So this is the Esterbrook collab Estie with TheCoffeeMonsterzCo. You've probably seen it or heard of it at least. And I have the journaler nib in this pen. So it is a medium journaler, which is the stock sort of journaler nib you can get from Esterbrook, ground by Gena when Gena does it for them. So I don't think it's always in stock maybe, but you can get it directly from Gena too sometimes, depending on if they have any on hand, or you can get it ground. So this pen I have inked up with one of my favorite new inks. It's Sailor Shikiori Kamoshika. And it is such a nice shade of ink. I had a sample from someone of this ink, and I just fell in love with the shade that I had to get a bottle, and I feel like it's such a perfect match and pairing to this pen. So I have kept this ink in this pen for over a month, I think, something like that. And it's a journaler. So this shade is interesting because it's kind of like, it's a brown, but it's like a soft mauvey brown. and it's not brown like this, right? So it's not like, it just has this underlying sort of purple mauve to it that makes it really, really pretty. Yeah, Slide is a very nice brown. Yeah, it is just like a really good brown. A really good ink. I need one of those brass clips. Oh yeah, this one is the Esterbrook one. I like it because it's small. I also use the Traveler's Company. Obviously, really good clip. But this one is kind of nice because it doesn't take up too much space, but it is very strong. So it's just gonna grasp those pages. But it's good when you don't want, like this clip is really good, but it sort of takes up quite a bit of space. And if you haven't seen me do this notably inked spread before, I'll just quickly mention the book that I'm using is called The Everyday Book by Galen Leather. And it is a blank page book made from TRP. And so that's why I use a guide sheet underneath, because it's a plain or a blank page. The last thing I need is a temptation of another Shikiori. Yeah. I hear you, but hear me out, GHP. This is a really nice color. I'm a bit afraid of my journal. Its pants are fancy. All right, so that's that. Let's see. Let's see if I have any other browns, but we might move on to mostly blues. That's funny. Blue, purple, sort of dark colors. Okay, let's move on to blue. Oh, this one's really bright. Let's do dark blue first. Okay. So this one is the Pilot Custom 823. It is a lovely pen. Again, one of those pens that I inked up. Got this in 2024. And just have never stopped inking it up. And I use, in this, I use Pelikan Edelstein Tanzanite. So it's like a really dark blue. And so it's one of those inks that I will always use, because I tend to use a lot of blue inks and dark inks when I'm writing and stuff. So dark blue is just up my alley. But this one has the signature nib, and I find that it's really, really easy to use, and it's very smooth. So signature nib is Pilot's version of sort of a rounded, smooth stub. It's meant to make, signatures really smooth and easy to sign things and stuff like that. So when it comes to like writing or journaling, I find that it's very easy to use as well, nib-wise. So it is a great pen. And also, if you're into, maybe not for GHP, but if you're into, if you write large, or you want to sort of have, like, take up more space with headers or something like that, it's very useful in that way as well. So but I wouldn't change out the inks frequently, just because it is hard to clean out and re-ink. And so I tend to, if I pick up, I think I've only used 2 ink colors in this pen since I got it. And it's one of those things where if I ink it up with something, I think it's just going to stay with that ink. So Pilot Custom 823 with a signature. So you can sort of do these loops and big writing. It's like a dark blue-black, I guess. So it's a great sort of match to a classic pen, like a Pilot. Do I have your email address? Maybe. It's fromcorolla@gmail. Send it to me. I want to see. Hey, Spicy, how's it going? You know what's harder to clean out? Noodler blue. I don't use Noodler's ink, so I wish you all the best in cleaning it out. Oh, you have a memory of it. Okay, good. Because yeah, I don't like hard to clean out inks. You know what color of ink is like not the easiest to clean out, regardless of like secondary properties and stuff? A red or an orange. For me anyways. Like I find that it just sticks. It just stays in there. It's like constantly just trying to flesh out like, you know, water that has just a little bit of red or like yellow orange in it. So I try and stick to blues and greens and things like that. Like I just find they're easier for me. I must something GHP, don't doubt that. But is there really a Shikiori that isn't a nice color? Yeah, you're right. There is none. I would like all of the Shikioris ever. Yeah, I refuse to buy zinc. I feel like you've mentioned that before, Spicy. That's why I was like, oh. I hope that was just a memory because, yeah, I would not try it. It's bad for the pen. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yay. I can't wait to see it fountain pen use. Spicy, you got modded. Let's leave it. So funny. You can be spicy miso. It looks gold in that photo, but it's platinum. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Hey, it wasn't me. The Manyo family is also fabulous. Yeah. Sailor in general, I agree. Just knows how to make great ink and in colors, right? Like, imagine if you had all of the Manyo line of inks, the Shikiori, and then the ink studio. Like, imagine the array just of the different shades you could play around with. That's like, yeah. Not only would it be overwhelming because, like, how would you even pick, right? But, you could realistically have any shade that you wanted to, probably. Maybe not the blackest of all blacks, though, because that belongs to platinum. And I will stand by that because I have not come across any blacker ink. But that's it. All the other shades. Chokoro for the win, right? Yeah. Oh my god, the storage. How would you even store all of those inks? Like, when I see just the ink studio lineup in a shop, it takes up so much space. You need to get all the studio? Do I? Diamine Sailor Pilot. Yeah. Diamine, yeah. Robert Oster. I don't think I've come across a Robert Oster ink I didn't like. Pilot for sure. Yeah, Sailor, Diamine. Dominant Industry is getting up there. I like a lot of Dominant Industry ones too. I know. It's hard. This is why we have a collection of inks, right? Like a car company, ink names matter to me. You don't care about an ink name 324. Much more if it was called Emerald. But do you know how hard it would be for them to come up with a name for every single ink studio ink? No, although I agree because I have such a hard time remembering the ink studio inks that I have, and I only have like 4 of them. The only one I remember is 1, 2, 3, because it doesn't equate to a color for me. I have to continually remind myself, and I should hydrate as well. You don't want to use a platinum unless you want to use it. That's true. That's true. I only have a 3776 because it's needlepoint and I have a specific purpose for it. Platinum black carbon. Yeah. Or carbon black. Yeah. Kyoto tag number 1. Oh, that is a dark. That's a really good dark ink. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you don't have experience with Robert Oster. You should try them. They're really good. All right, I am going to move on to my other blues. Okay, so we did this one. We'll do this one. We'll do our sailor first. And then So this is Sailor Pro Gear Slim, and it is a North America limited edition pen that I got a few years ago, and I love because it reminds me of a lighthouse. So it's always going to be one of my favorite sailor pens, I think. And it's just a medium nib. And usually when I use this pen, I ink it up with a blue ink, just because you have to. You could also use a red in this this pen. I feel like that would be kind of cool. And I think I did when I first sort of got it. I was like, oh, let's test out a red, but I'm not really a red ink person. So I like to stick to my blues. In this, actually, I threw in a sample ink that I have. Another Shikiori Yonaga. So this is like a dark blue. And I wanted to try out this ink, but also I wanted to try it out in a sailor. So that is why. Typically, I don't really use medium nibs anymore. Just because my writing has evolved to be a little bit, like I write a little larger now. I guess as I've gotten older, right? My writing has just naturally sort of transitioned to just writing a little bit bigger. I do a lot more cursive than I used to. And so I like the broader nibs just because I can see a lot more of the ink. And it's very comfortable and enjoyable to write with broader nibs. But I do once in a while like to take out some of my finer nibs just for fun. If it's for writing or taking notes or something like that. So this pen I don't take out a lot, but when I do, it's really, really nice. Just reminds me, I really like this pen. And if you are one of those people that think or that feel that sailor nibs are a little scratchy in the way that they give more feedback when you're using it on paper, I agree. And I would recommend using it on Midori paper, because on Midori, it feels so nice. But again, you might not like any kind of feedback. So that's just my experience with sailor pens. I really like the cognac orange color whiskey from Robert Oster. Ooh. Get some fire on fire. I have fire on fire and fire on fire on fire. And I will say orange inks, as well as red, pink, purple, they are fun to paint with because you see so much more of like the vibrancy of those inks than I probably would if I have inked them up before in pens, and it's just not the same experience. Vampire Pigeon, yes. Yes, Vampire Pigeon, the Robert Oster and Atlas ink. Robert Oster inks are cool, but the bottles aren't great. They're not as bad as Ferris Wheel Press. Yeah. I don't have an issue. I don't think I've had an issue with the bottles because I'm able to fit all of my pens into the bottle to ink up. Though I have started just inking up directly with cartridges or converters instead of putting in a pen. But yeah, it is interesting how the shape of a bottle makes, either you like it or you don't. I have a Robert Oster Chromo Shaders, Fire and Ice. You hate the bottle. Yukisagi. That's where you're going to be spicy? That's where you're going to be spicy? Let's hear it. That's where you're going to rant. Can't stand standard blacks and blue inks or similar. Yeah. I love a good blue black. I do too. And a nice dark black is classic. Sometimes it's shockingly appealing. Yeah. I like black ink highlighted. I like black ink for, for sketching or like, drawing something or writing, something that I want for it to stand out. But like, yeah, black ink for me is similar to blue. It's kind of standard. And so if I'm going to ink something up for like note taking or, to use in my planner or something, I tend to lean towards blue, just because blue or black, I go with blue, black, or blue. But, any of those sort of standard colors I'm okay with. Brown is really nice too. Like writing with a brown, taking notes or journaling or something. It's like, so it's just enough where it's like, it's standard, so it doesn't stand out like an orange would and hurt your eyeballs, but it also doesn't look boring or, it doesn't just fade off into the paper. Blue and black reminds me of school. Yeah. I ink converters usually if they have one. Yeah. And you just re-ink them. I do that with my pilots because I cannot handle pilot converters. I'm not a big fan of them. And so what I tend to do is I use cartridges and I just ink those cartridges. Platinum blue black isn't a blue. It's a boring blue. Like Waterman mysterious blue. I only have one Waterman, and it's not mysterious blue. It's Serenity blue, which is just another one of those blues where you're like, you just want a solid blue that you can use in a vintage pen or a pen that, you just want it to be reliable and not cause any problems. You gotta pick out those inks. Either a Pilot Iroshizuku or Waterman or something like that. So this pen is a Pilot E95S, if you're not familiar. It's a really classic, really great pocket pen. And I love that it's just sort of a slide-in cap. It has a satisfying kind of pull on it. Probably one of the only pens I post, only because it's a pocket pen. I only post if it makes the writing experience more comfortable, usually. So the Pilot E95S, and I have a medium nib in it. Pilot medium? is really nice. I don't know, I find it wetter and a little broader than what I would expect probably. And I don't know if it's just this pen or in general a Pilot medium, but this pen, every time I've inked it up, and I've inked it up with different inks, I just find it writes wetter than I expect for a Pilot. So the ink that I have in this one is Hachimonjiya and Eric Small Things collaboration ink. And it's called Goodnight Blue. And I got it at the SF Pen Show last year because I'm a huge fan of Eric Small Things. I love the cute like doodly designs. And yeah, and I thought, you know what? I could use another blue ink. Not really, but you know, I do like blues, so I thought I like the designer, I like the brand. So if I'm going to, you know, just get an ink for that reason, it's going to be a blue because I will most likely use it that way. So very kind of standard, you know, just a solid, nice blue. So now we're going to go into bright blue. And you know which one that's going to be. It's going to be a Pilot 74. Pilot Custom 74 Stone Blue. So I threw in a bright blue. I'm disappointed. I thought you would say Waterman Tender Purple. I did. I was looking at the Atlas site because I needed to use commission dollars because they have now retired their affiliate program as of December 31st, and they're revamping it and relaunching at some point soon, you know, or in the next few months probably. But I had commission dollars saved up that I was like, oh, I'll use it for something. And so I thought I actually used it for this pen, the Pilot Custom 74. And then I got a couple of ink bottles, and one of them was the Sailor Shikiori Kamoshika, and then also Waterman because that's what I have my vintage pen inked up with. And so I was like, what Waterman inks do they have? And I think at the time they only had like a handful available on Atlas. And I think they did have a purple. It could have been Tender Purple or, you know, one of those ones. And I was like, you know what? No, I can't do that to my Parker. So I went with a nice blue. Platinum Blue Black isn't a blue black. Oh, okay. It's boring. Yeah, I think many Platinum are Iron Gall. I don't know. Platinum Violet is pink. Interesting. Birmingham Cold Steel is my blue black. Ooh, a nice blend of darker blue with a touch of green tinge. Ooh, awesome. Yeah, I like that. Let me see. Yeah, that's nice. I like it. Cold Steel. Very cool. That's a nice blue. Also love Diamine O'Donnell, but it's more of a mid blue-green. I thought when I joined the hobby I would hate brown inks. Brown inks are actually really nice. I agree. I like brown inks too. Pilot Tsukio. Yeah, I'm team Tsukio. So, look, I will try and use other Pilot Iroshizuku inks, but I am team Tsukio. I think it's just like the best ink. O'Donnell is great if you like it. Hi, Inky, the winner of all pen giveaways. Birmingham, Pennsylvania state. Let's see. Ooh, I like this one, Inky. Yes. That one is nice too. So good. Diamine. Oh, Daniil. Let's see. Ooh, okay, yeah. That is actually pretty close. I also like this. Very good. Let's see. Yeah, that is very close. This might be lighter, maybe. Maybe. Their swatches are always huge. It looks more subtle in writing. Yeah. I know, it's like if you're painting with it or something, right? You're using so much more of it, but when you're writing with it, it depends on what nib you're using too. But Birmingham has a lot of excellent blue blacks. Ohio River is great too. I found Sailor Studio 680. Really good brownings. Ooh. Sailor Studio 680. Yeah. Let's see. Medium brown. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. 683 is nice too. All of these are nice. Like if you're into the dark, maybe 680 isn't, it doesn't seem that dark, but I guess when you're writing and it's saturated, then it will look darker. But yeah, these are a nice line of dark shades. Nice palette of dark shades. I like it. Can be really tough to dial in exactly the right shade of brown ink. Yeah. I found Sailor Studio 680. Yeah, those ones. Okay, so very nice. I like it. And breaking from my dark ink trend, I guess, I put Pilot Namiki Blue, this bottle, that I got with the 823, and I didn't want to put it in my 823, but this is a really good ink. And so I put it in this one. I don't know why, but also I just wanted to use the ink, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use it in this one. And it's a broad nib. Pilot broad nib is really nice too. So this is the Pilot Custom 74. And inked up with Namiki Blue. This converter is not too bad. I think it's a Con 70, if I'm not wrong. And I tried to use a cartridge in here because, like I said, with my pilots, I tend to use cartridges and just re-ink the cartridges as I need to. But the thing about this barrel is that it's translucent, transparent, one of those ones where you can see. So you can see where the cartridge ends, and it just kind of hangs there awkwardly because there's some sort of space there where the cartridge ends, and then you have like nothing there. So it just looked really awkward. And so, you know, I had to put the cartridge back, or the converter back in. Converter's not that bad, but not my favorite. I use 680 in Katana B nib. Ooh, nice. Yeah, that would be really nice. Tsuchi is in my Skogsy Elved. Ooh, with a Scythe EF. A Kirk round. I have a Scythe F in a Banu, the Kirk round. Well, it is Kirk's grind. But yeah, it is really nice, right? How do you find that? How do you find that nib? And I got a Katana on a double broad nib at the SF Pen show last year from Kirk, and I love it. It's great. It's really, really good. Although any grind from Kirk, I feel like, you know, I don't think I would complain because, I don't know, they're always so good. Nice to write with. So this is a Parker Maxima pen. And the nib is a left oblique. Not a nib that I need, because I probably don't grip my pen in a way that sort of makes this nib ideal, but I really like the pen. I like the nib. It's a 14 karat gold, and it's just like a really nice, it's just a really aesthetically pleasing, beautiful pen. So I wanted to try out the nib, and so I tried it out, and I thought, wow, this is so interesting. And of course now it doesn't want to write, but that's okay. I'll try and get it to write. But a left oblique is very interesting because if you don't hold it at like an ideal angle, the nib would kind of tell you, like, it's just not going to write properly, or, you know, it'll give you that, you know, you'll feel it when you're writing with it, and you're like, ooh, maybe I should angle. Either you can angle your hand, or just move the angle of the paper. And I find that if I just kind of write with the paper angled, then it feels a lot more comfortable for me. And you can get those different line variations, but it's very similar to a cursive italic type of nib. But depending on, I guess it's sort of, you know, depending on how you angle your pen, you can get the most out of this type of nib. So and I did want to play around with the inks, or the ink that I would put in this pen, so I have used only blue in it, and yeah, ever since I got the Waterman, I was like, I'm just gonna stick Waterman in this and we'll be fine. It's also really nice. I think it's a good match because sort of maroon color of the pen with this kind of blue is really nice to me. So no complaints. Okay, so we've done all of those except this one. Then we have purple and we have green. So let's do green. Then we'll do black. This is the Franklin-Christoph 46. I don't think they make the 46 anymore, I think. But I think the barrel is really, really nice. It's antique glass, so it has that sort of look where you're like, antique glass? Or sea glass? Something like that. But it does remind me of, you know, if you find like a piece of sea glass or something on the beach or, you know, something like that, it has that kind of finish. And the hint of turquoise or teal, I think the color is so pretty because it's not bright. Like, it's not a vibrant pen, but it's still really elegant and nice. They have a new 46. Okay, yeah. No, they changed up their models a little bit, but I like this. I like the shape of this pen. I cannot stand Pilot's converters. None of them are great. For such great pens, see, this is what I don't understand either. The converters don't match for me the quality of the pen. It's like, why am I fiddling with this converter? Why? Just, I don't know. I also, when I used, I think it's a Pilot Con 40 or something, right? I think those are the ones you would probably use in a Metropolitan or one of those ones. I cracked it accidentally just because it's like, I don't know. It's easy to crack. I may have pushed a little too hard into the pen. I'll take responsibility. But still, I was like, I don't like this. Why? I really like that grind on the Elved. Kirk strongly recommended the Skies over the Katana for use on an EF nib. Yeah. Kirk's really good at recommending, like, or giving his sort of input in what would work really, really well or with a nib. Yeah, matches well with your handwriting. That's awesome. Yay. I'm glad it worked out. The nib in this one is the katana. Nope. It's a Sankakusen, which is similar to the katana, but it's by CY from Kyuseido, and it's his version of the Naginata grind. So, and I will hydrate. Thank you. So I love this variation. Like, I love this type of nib grind because of the different line variations you can get with it. So it will always be one of those go-to kind of nibs. FC46. And the nib itself, if you can see, is a special commemorative nib for the California Pen Show that Kirk did from Pen Realm. So I bought, or I got the nib with a double broad, and then I took it to CY and I was like, can you do something? Or, well, I kind of knew what I wanted to get done, but I was like, can you do this on this nib? Because it would just make the pen show, like, it would make the nib so much, you know, more special, I guess. Because, you know, you get it from someone at a pen show, and then you get a ground at the show, which is really special. So anyways, I have, what do I have in this? I have this Pelikan, Edelstein, Aquamarine, and it's a sample that I got, but I thought that is a great pairing, and it's a really good ink too. Like, it's like a dark, you know, teal green type of ink, and it behaves really well. So, Aquamarine. What's that one? I'm almost done the sample too. So I like to go through samples so I don't have too many on hand. I don't like to have too many samples. Okay, the next one is not super exciting, but it is a great pen. And yeah, I don't have much more to say about it. It's a great pen. This is a Pilot Vanishing Point matte black with a broad nib, and I inked it up with another sample that I got, Iroshizuku. How do you pronounce this? Syo-ro. We'll just go with that. It's just one of those, like, you know, if you need a pen, you want to take notes, include it in your book, or, you know, don't have to worry too much about being precious with it, like maybe some of the other Pilot pens. That's kind of what it's great for. It took me a while to get this pen. I got this a couple of years ago now, I think. But it took me a while to actually purchase it because I always wondered if the clip would annoy me, which I think is just like one of those considerations, right? Like if you watch a review on VPs, the clip is just in this place that could make it awkward for you. And I felt like, I don't know if it would be awkward. And I have to say, I don't notice it. I notice it's there, but not in a way that I get annoyed. And I think as pen people, sometimes we get annoyed about the most random things that other people might not find as annoying. But for us, it's like, that's the sticky point that makes us not want to use the pen. So yeah, it took me a little while to kind of take the plunge on this one, but I really like it. I think it's a great sort of everyday pen. So I have it with a broad nib and inked up with a Pilot Iroshizuku. And because I can't pronounce it, I can't also spell it. Okay. Especially once he's done enough work with you that he recognizes you when you walk up and say hi. Isn't that special, GHP? Isn't that special when you go to a pen show or an event or something like that where the nib specialist or vendor or whoever, you know, they recognize you and they're like, oh, you're back for more nibs, great. Or you're back for another pen or whatever the case is. And it's really fun to kind of build relationships that way, I find anyways, in the community. Because it just, you know, it makes it more personable, right? Like you recognizing someone, they recognize you. Especially someone like Kirk where they're like, oh, you know, they know what they've, like, you can walk through and talk about what they've done before. And so, you know, they kind of can build on that, you know, handwriting sample, what you picked before, what you're kind of drawn to. Yeah, I like that. It's a great way of kind of building rapport. I've been cherishing my 37 to 76 UEF since the price hikes. Yeah, let's get into that one because this is my one and only 3776. And it will be my one and only because I won't be getting another one. Especially with the price hikes, but also just in general, I found the combination of pen to nib that I just adore. I love the UEF nib on the Platinum 3776. And I just, like, I have medium nibs, I have broad nibs, I have, you know, I have Pilots that I love, I have all the other nib stock types that for me, getting a platinum with like a medium nib or broad nib, I just don't think it would be super special. Like, I don't think it would stand out to me as much as this combination does. So for me, if I'm going to use the 3776, it's going to be this pen, and I'm good with that. I'm fine with it. It is what it is. And also I probably won't be buying a Pilot or Sailor anytime soon. So, they're kind of like in that I'm enjoying what I have. And if in the future I want to, I aspire to get another Pilot or something like that, it'll be for a special reason or because of a limited edition or something like that, which I don't really fall for. I don't tend to get those limited edition type of pens, but you never know. I feel like for me, I would have to justify why I get another Pilot or Platinum or Sailor or any pen brand really that is going through it. It's tough. It's really tough. But it just makes me think, if I have a pen that I really enjoy, then I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm just going to stick with it. Yeah. So this pen, the UEF, I use for specific kind of note-taking, anything that I have to sort of write either in a small space, right? A needlepoint sort of helps in that way. Or if it's something where I need it to dry quickly, then I tend to use my finer nibs. And this is perfect for that. And in this I have the Platinum Carbon Black cartridge because I don't want to mess around with converters and this ink. So it's just a cartridge, and it takes a long time for me to go through a cartridge in this pen because it's needlepoint, so it's just gonna keep writing. Although I think I am sort of getting down to the last little bit because it's not as vibrant. But that is okay. And I also realized that I didn't write with this yet, so we're gonna make room for it somewhere. You know what? We'll just do another page. It's not a big deal. Unless I can put it here. All right. We're going to do a small sample of this. $37.76 has some nice limited editions. Yeah. More recently too, right? Like in the last year or so, I feel like Platinum just upped their game with limited editions and colorways that I was like, okay, I like these colors. It's just really pretty. But yeah. Fountain pen use, I just see a comment. Last year I was getting Platinum 37.76 and Sailor Pro Gears for around $100. Yeah. And it's great because it's two-way, mutual. Yeah, I sometimes wonder about the oddity of these streams because it can make us viewers feel like we know you in a way that is definitely not two-way. It's going to be awkward for you. Yeah, you just come up and you're like, hey! And I'm like, who are you? No, I mean, I can see how that would be awkward, but also I love meeting people in real life and they're like, I'm this username, because obviously like I don't know your real name, and that's fine. I almost feel like usernames make more sense to me sometimes, where I'm like, I'm just going to call you Fountain Pen News. Like, I'm just going to call you GHB because that makes more sense to me. That's how we interact. But it's kind of funny, like the first time Lisa and I met, Olive Octopus, it was at the SF Pen Show, and she was right beside me in line, which was like, I didn't recognize her, obviously. I didn't know who she was, but she was like, do you want to try some inks? And also, you know, I'm Lisa. And so you kind of do the like introduction and then you're like, hey, do you want to talk about inks and pens? And that makes it less awkward, which, you know, you might think it's a little awkward, but it's not. It's like, yeah, I want to talk about ink. Let's do it. No, but I hear what you mean, GHP. It's kind of an odd sort of when you go from like streams or even in chat, you know, you chat with people and you get to know people through usernames and what they're sharing. And then in person, it's like, okay, let's talk about, you know, let's just talk about stuff. What are you using now? What do you have inked up? I swapped the nibs out into maker pens. Yeah. I was fortunate to get my gold nib big 3 in the secondary market. I feel like that's probably the way to go, even now. Unfortunately, or fortunately, at the anchor drop discount price. Yeah. I'm far more focused on maker pens now going forward. I think I probably am too. But like I said, like if there's something special or you're saving up for, you know, this limited edition or the certain type of pen, which is going to be more expensive now and in the future, then just make it more special for you. Like, you know, you're getting it for enjoyment. So make it a big deal that you're getting it. But yeah, I agree about maker pens, and I feel like makers are sort of going through it too. It's just all around not a great situation in terms of pricing and pens, and yeah. I just got a 743 nib and a BB Crown Tokadachi by Matthew Chen. Yeah. I need to get more Matthew Chen grinds. I think I only have one. I seriously love meeting people in real life. Yeah, Wendy Sue, Fountain Pen News, yes. I sat next to Lisa in a workshop in Philly. Yeah, that was so funny. I find too, for the most part, you know, I find that meeting people in real life after you get to know them through streams or, you know, through the community online, I just find that it's like you tend to click right away just because it's like a continuation of like, yeah, you're doing it in person, which like I can be an awkward person in real life, but as long as we're talking about something that excites us, I feel like that's the icebreaker, right? And I think that's why pen shows and events and meetups, they work really well because going into it, you know, you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to know anyone here or if they're going to, you know, like if we're going to get along or whatever. But I find that once you're at the event or at the meetup, I feel like we all we come out of, you know, our shells, or we're kind of like, oh, it's fine because we have something to talk about and something to share. And a lot of us get very nerdy and geeky about it, which is better, which is like, you know, just lean into that. So this one is a Sailor Pro Gear Slim with a broad nib, and it is a Cult Pens collaboration or exclusive. And I got this a few years ago because it was on sale. Cult Pens had like a discount or something, and it applied to this pen. And I thought, you know what? I do like mauve and like, you know, purples that are not super bright purples. And a Sailor broad nib. Yeah, okay. You know, it writes really nicely. So that's the story of this pen, and I really enjoy it. And I have a cartridge in it because I'm trying to use these cartridges. I got them a few years ago, and they're just like a great match for this pen. Another Shikiori. I feel like I didn't do this on purpose, but Harahara. But this ink and pen are a great match. Like a nice purpley color. I don't think makers were selling well in Philly, unfortunately. Ooh, that's not good. It'd be interesting to hear. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see like what the perspective of makers, and I think there were a few vendors who pulled out as well, right, before Philly, for various reasons. But yeah, it would be kind of interesting to hear from makers and who were there, but also as they sort of move through this year of pen shows, what the difference is between last year and this year. Maybe I'll do it here. And you know, whether or not it's notable. It's a notable difference. But I know as one person who goes to pen shows, but from my perspective, as a person who would attend and look for things to buy, you know, budget is always a consideration, regardless of, like, you know, which show you're going to, who's going to be there, etc. You're always kind of working off of a budget or an idea of what you want to get and how much you want to spend. And I think that is just going to be a big factor, right? Where it's like, well, do I spend that on a maker pen, you know, or do I spend it on inks, or do I spend it on XYZ, whatever. So I think that's going to be a big factor going into these things. It's like, I can't buy all of the things, so where am I gonna do it? And obviously, you know, I would love to support this community, the makers being part of it. But at the same time, you know, you're grappling with, this is a hobby, and you have a certain aesthetic or style, and what fits that, right? What fits your style? And so you kind of have to find a balance somewhere, I think, of like, who do you support, but also how do you sort of feed your need for a certain type of pen, or, you know, a kind of writing experience, or accessories, even like paper, notebooks. That's not going to be cheap either. How do you kind of feed that need to? I really started looking at maker pens and vintage. Gonna look at custom grind soon. You should, Omaha Dad. That is like a totally fun and new field where you can get wrapped up in all kinds of different customizations. Did you end up trying the craft paper you won from Brad yet? I did, last Wednesday on my stream, and I'll show you the spread. Do I have it right here? I do. Like, I do have it right here. So this was the Musubi notebook with Takagami Natural. It's like a craft paper look. And it's because it's unbleached, undyed, and so it has like a natural brown tone to it. So yeah, I did a painting in it. Found it didn't bleed through. Just a little bit. Like, wait, maybe it did a little bit, a tiny bit. But overall, it handled inks really, really well. And you know me, I throw ink at the paper. And it did really well in terms of vibrancy too, right? You can see the shimmer coming through, some shading. I even tried a white ink that I have, Octopus Fluids White Polar Bear. So that's kind of nice, kind of fun to try because it is that sort of craft tone. So it does well with white inks, and pigment ink was fine too. So on top of the ink, I drew with pigment ink. That held very good too. It took a little while to dry, right? Because the ink sort of sits on top as it's absorbing it. I did find that some of the more muted or lighter shades of inks, they don't really stand out. So you lose, I think, a little bit of some of the ink vibrancy, I would say. And also probably because it's this warm brown tone, it tends to mute your colors a little bit, or reflect them a little differently than like a stark white paper would. And but in other ways, it sort of brings out a little bit more of the yellows. Looked really good with green, so that was interesting. And then I also tested pencils that I had. I will say this paper is really good for graphite. So if you are, into sketching or drawing, I really like that experience. Or writing with a pencil, obviously. I also wrote with a few fountain pens on here. Personally, I didn't really enjoy that experience. And on the Musubi site, in the description of this paper, it did lean into the fact that you can use this for creative, artsy sort of ways. And yes, it can handle fountain pens, so you can write in it with fountain pens, no issues. But I found the experience of drawing on it, especially with pencil, and then also painting, I just enjoyed that a lot more. So for me, I would use this type of notebook probably more for like journaling in a creative way. Or if you're writing, notes or something like that in pencil, it's really, really good. And you could use fountain pens. It felt, it's smooth paper. It's not that it's like textured like craft paper. It's like smooth craft paper. But I felt like writing on it, like you can kind of see the colors don't really stand out, right? And there was nothing that sort of stood out to me in terms of like, ooh, I would love to, write in here with my fountain pens. I thought more so, I was like, ooh, I would write in here with pencils, or draw in here. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this notebook, this type of paper. And if there's something similar to this, Takagami Natural, I guess is like specially formulated for Musubi. But if there's something similar to this, I would say is a great option for arts, or like an artist notebook. And the other thing I found really cool was the lines are a brown color. So when I was painting, the lines don't stand out, right? So they kind of just blend into the background, which like for an artist or someone who's using it for art purposes, I think that's like a really good characteristic of the notebook. If you're going to get lined, paper, but yeah, it looks cool. I like how it turned out. I really enjoyed the experience of painting and drawing with a pencil on that paper. So we'll see. Last pen is the Skogsy Baby Syo-ro. And it is an Ultim, all black, very cute pocket pen. And I have the Franklin-Christoph Raven, I guess all black nib. And this is a double broad sig nib from Franklin-Christoph. And I think all year last year I had this combination, this pen, this nib, and the ink is the Platinum Chokuro super black ink in this pen. And at some point last year, I cleaned it out. And I tried a different nib in this, I think. And I was just like, it's not the same. It doesn't feel, it just didn't hit the same way as this combination does. So I put it back. I put the nib back in here. And I think it's because I wanted to use this nib in a different pen. And I was like, well, let me stick something else into this pen because the pen is really cute and useful and I love it. So, but that didn't work. So this is just gonna be one of those pens that nib and ink, I guess. I could use any black ink, but it handles Chokuro really well, so I'm not going to mess with it. But it is one of those inks that you kind of have to use regularly. For me, I haven't had to use it every day, you know, to keep it writing, but I have had to use it regularly just because otherwise you get a little bit of dry ink on the nib. And that's fine. Just dip it in distilled water and it writes again and it's fine. But I find if I use it regularly enough, then it will stay inked, it'll stay, you know, wet, and it'll be fine. So it is really, really dark, which is great because when I want to sketch or, you know, just quickly sort of, you know, draw out something, this is a great pen for that. And the nib too is really, really fun and nice to draw with because this kind of nib is still, it's smooth and transitions really well with, you know, the lines that you're gonna make when you're drawing. But the ink makes it stand out too. So it's just the combination of, I think we talked about this earlier, it's just the combination of pen to nib to ink that works really well. And this is one of those pens that I'm just going to keep inked as long as I, you know, need it in my lineup for my specific purposes or uses with that ink. This is another one of those pens. Like I'll just keep it inked up with this ink, you know, as long as I use this pen and need it. And yeah, you know, the Parker will always have the Waterman Serenity Blue. But then everything else, oh, and the 823, because I don't want to clean it out. You can, but I just don't want to. It's just, it takes forever. So aside from those pens, I think everything else, I play around with, you know, the inks I have in them. Yeah, and explore and figure out what combinations really speak to me. Because sometimes when you ink up a pen right away, you can kind of know, you're like, nope, this is not going to work. I don't like it. Not enjoying it. Sometimes you kind of have to get to know the ink, the nib, and the pen before you decide if it's something that you enjoy. And for me, it's kind of a test of if I'm reaching for it. Because if I'm not reaching for it, then it could just sit on my shelf or in my drawer, and it's still in my collection. I'll still enjoy looking at it. But if I'm not reaching for it, then there's a reason why. So it could be that I just don't need that combination of nib or ink. And then you can change up the ink. Or if it's a pen where you can change out the nib, then, try a different kind of nib in it. And that's how I sort of get a feel for, I have a few maker pens where I'll interchange different custom grinds in them. And sometimes I enjoy a pen more with a certain nib just because it's shaped a certain way. Like this one, for example, writing cursive with this type of pen, just because the way it's cut, like how much of that grip section you have and how it sort of sits in my hand, it just feels more comfortable when I'm writing, cursive or long form with it. And so that's what I kind of stick with. If you find that kind of combination, then I would say explore that a little bit more and then stick with it for as long as you still enjoy it. And then change it up. Right? But that's how I sort of approach my pens and what I have inked up and what I use. And that, for me, tends to keep my number down to like just the pens that I tend to use. You want some nice write notepads, but the paper is very nice. I need to use them more. You should use them more, for sure. You should definitely enjoy them. And I don't know how you're sort of finding different, no, hydrating with redemption. No, just keep talking. I don't know how you're finding papers that you're using right now. Or if you're kind of exploring new options like Koji paper. Because there's, constantly different options out there, different notebooks you can try, different pads you can try. But I personally too am kind of like looking at my stash or my own stationery that I already have for using like notebooks in a different way or a new way. So notebooks that I kind of have in my collection where I probably I wouldn't reach for them currently just because I have notebooks that I'm using. But in some cases, it's kind of nice to go and try a notebook with different paper or use it in a new way that you might not have used it in the past. And I think that's part of just, with price hikes or the accessibility of certain types of stationery, depending on where it's coming from or how much it's going to cost for you to order it. It's kind of nice to look into, your collection and what you have already and see if there are different ways you can use them. And yeah, enjoy the paper, right? Like I have notebooks that are kind of sitting there that I got years ago with really good paper. And I don't know if we're going to continue to have that good paper as TRP has shown us, right? As we keep moving forward with different brands making different papers and stuff. It's kind of nice to, reuse what you have in different ways. Or if you have a notebook that's sitting there and you're wondering what to use it for, there are different purposes that you can use them for. And one of them is for currently inked or notably inked. Whereas this month, this is why I like to do a separate currently inked spread or log. And then I do this for notably inked just because I don't have to then try and fit in all of the all the straggly pens, all the pens that kind of sit there, and I forgot that I didn't do a writing sample. But that's fine. I think next month I'll pick out the pens that I will do this notably inked for, just because we'll be into the year. So January, it's fine. But month over month, I tend not to do this kind of drawing and writing spread with all of the pens that I have inked with, like black or something like that, where it's like next month I probably still will have these two pens in my lineup because they're just that consistent. But I might change up some of the other ones. And now that I'm looking at this, it's like very dark palette, with the exception of, the Namiki blue, maybe even this blue. But aside from that, there's a lot of sort of the dark shades of these colors. And we'll see as as we go into February, maybe I'll have different shades in my lineup. So if we do a little bit of a flip through, this was December, this was November. Really like this teal. October This was with the katana. I like that one. That's a really good ink too. Wearing Google Robinson Crusoe. And this was it September? Probably. I like those too. Really like olive greens. Probably have to put an olive green into my lineup. I tried a few pens there. This one, I like the burnt colors as well, like burnt orange or mustard yellow. That's a bright one. Koei 12, Okamoto pink. This is a really nice ink too. Sailor Afternoon Tea. I had a sample of that. Amarillo Toasty Joggers. That's a really pretty color too. Oh, and then we get into, I think this was earlier in the year, last year. We had some plums, purples, lighter colors. Oh, GHP, look, Fire on Fire. In a Skogsy with a broad cursive italic. And Sailor Manyo Sakura is a really pretty color. That will probably come out in the springtime. And this pink, Sailor Shikiori Sakura Mori. That's very pretty too. Amarillo Stationery Blue Suntan. That's a nice ink. It's like a dusty blue sort of color. And then my only Matthew Chen custom ground nib is a Beak Point, which is really fun, but probably not one of those nibs I would use on a daily, which is why I don't tend to put it into one of my currently inked pens. But it is really, really fun to just play around with. Yeah, some of these inks are really nice too, so. It's just funny. I'm just in my moody, dark era. But it's okay. It's wintry. That's why. It's wintry. Very nice, though. It's very interesting. That's very interesting. I like to flip through my currently inked and notably inked pens too, my spreads, because it's just a way of, like, you know, you tend to find, at least for me, I sort of see, you know, the pattern in the types of nibs that I enjoy. So it kind of makes it easier too, like, you know, GHP, you were saying, when you see a nib specialist and they're kind of like, oh, well, you know, what kind of grind do you want? And then they can sort of work off of recommendations or their suggestions on, well, if you have smaller handwriting and you use EF, you know, what will go really well with that. And also on our end, it sometimes helps to see, you know, what kind of nibs do we tend to use, and also what looks pleasing to us, right? Like sometimes I'll use a nib because it's fun, but it doesn't necessarily mean I like the way my writing looks with it. I don't know if that makes sense. But you know, sometimes you use certain nibs and you're like, wow, my writing looks really good, you know? And it's because it's a stub or whatever, cursive italic or something. And it just enhances the way that you write, your style that's unique, obviously. And it's good to see that sometimes because we don't notice it maybe in our, you know, just daily sort of writing with nibs. We tend to focus on the experience or what you're writing. Not so much on like, oh, you know, what does it, like, do I enjoy this? What does it look like? am I more of a, a medium nib person or things like that? And I find that it helps to kind of see that month over month or however often you want to do it, where I'm like consistently seeing that, my style tends to be, this way or whatever. And that helps me to figure out, do I want more cursive italic nibs or do I want more stub type nibs? And then, which nib specialists sort of have grinds that line up with that type of style, because otherwise you're going to have like a million different custom ground nibs and not know which one to use, because they're all fun. They're all great, right? Well, I'll tell you when to drink. Now. Only now can you drink. I love it. So funny. So, yeah. So this is my currently inked for this month. And I'm trying to think if I was going to do something else or share something else. But if you missed the start of the stream, I was just sharing that I'm using my plotter square for fountain pen related, hobby related, sort of tracking and journaling, things like that. Ooh, I also have I created a spread in here that I'm going to fill out. And this will replace what I was doing in my other Musubi notebook, where every month I would just document how many ink samples I have, how many ink bottles, and how many fountain pens in my collection. And so I'm going to do this, but it's going to look a little bit differently because it's just going to be in chart form. So per quarter. And yeah, it'll just be an interesting sort of data bit. And this is my running log of currently inked fountain pens. So I'll have the month, and then in that month, anytime I ink up a pen, I'll document it or do a quick writing sample. And it just continues until the next month, and then I'll just continue onward and onward. And this too is a great reference for seeing what you have inked up at some point, even if it may not be currently in your lineup. But it can kind of show you, the combinations of pens to nib to ink. And sometimes I sort of flip back through previous months to help me figure out, next month, if I want to have a certain pen inked up, have I inked it up with, or what have I inked it up with in the past? And did I really enjoy it? Or do I want to go with something different? These are all things. These are all the things you can think about when you're thinking about what you want to ink up. Or if you got a new pen, you can also look back at what you've inked up in the past in terms of like, I like certain shades or like certain inks. And that can be helpful too, to figure out what you like, and what you're going to ink up your pens. So, I do currently inked, well, this will be a little bit different for this year because for 2026, I'm using a different sort of notebook or system for currently inked. But my notably inked for next month, it will be just the fountain pens that stand out to me in that month. So usually around 8 to 10 is what I like to have in my spread. So that's what I'll do for next month. But now that I've done this spread, then I start thinking, because we're past mid-January. Whoa. We're nearing the last week of January. That's kind of crazy. But now that we're coming to the end of the month, I start to think about what I want to keep in my lineup for next month, and are there other pens that I want to include in my lineup for February, and are there any pens that I've used this month that I'm happy to kind of retire for future use. And so that's the kind of thing I think about. And then also as we near the end of the month, most of these pens are running out of ink. So it's a good time to think about whether I want to re-ink them. I usually don't clean out and re-ink with a different ink unless I'm going to be using that pen for a while, like multi-month, for more than 1 month. But usually I either will just re-ink with the same ink that I've used already, or I'll clean it out and I'll bring in a different pen. And it's a great way of refreshing your lineup too, so that, like me personally, I don't tend to keep the same lineup month over month for multiple months, even though I may have some pens that I keep in that lineup. I don't want the overall lineup to be the same, just because I lose interest in the writing experience. It's kind of like, oh, you have something new and fun, and so you start using it, and then after a while it just becomes the norm. And so I don't want that to happen with my fountain pens, because they are special and I do love writing with them and drawing with them, and experiencing them. And so for me to keep it something fun and enjoyable, I do like to kind of switch out a few pens at least. And so that's how I kind of approach it nearing the end of the month. And I will think about whether or not I want to keep the same nibs in the pens that you can interchange nibs with, or are there other custom nibs that I want to sort of move in and move out. And that's kind of it. And then the inks, obviously, open my drawer and take a look at my inks, or ink swatches, and figure out some of these inks will stay just because they work really well with a pen that I've chosen to put them in. But other inks, I can sort of move on to other colors, especially if it's like a sample or something where, like, I'm almost done this, so now I have to think about whether I want to keep this pen in my lineup for the next month or so, or if I want to move on to a different pen. So these are the things I like to think about instead of worrying about, the big adulting things. This is kind of the fun part of the hobby, I think, where it's kind of like you can mix and match and customize to your heart's content, to whatever you sort of enjoy, and whatever looks good for you. So I like having control over that. But yeah, that's it, friends. That's pretty much what I wanted to go through today and share with you, and encourage you to do as well if you have the time or you want to, or even if you're overwhelmed with the amount of pens you have inked up, or don't want to ink them or do a currently inked with them all, pick out like a handful of them, explore them, have fun with them, do some doodling or sketching as well, just to kind of get a feel for the nib and enjoy it, right? Have fun with it. And I hope you have an amazing rest of week. Hope the weather cooperates for you, and I hope you get some time to play with your stationery. Definitely make time for it, because it's worth it. Brings us joy, so it's something worth leaning into. And I will be back on Monday, so if you want to join me in journaling and drawing, stop by on Monday, same time, same place, or watch the VOD or replay, of course. But yeah, I'll be doing some journaling and some drawing, and I'll be using different stationery tools and pens and markers and stuff like that. So I'll see you then. And then also next Wednesday, more fountain pen related kind of stuff, probably ink painting. But yeah, more fun stuff, right? So friends, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me and being here and keeping me company and sharing all of the inks. Now that I can sort of look back and figure out what I want to try. But yeah, I'll see you in other streams. I'll see you in Brad's stream or All of Octopus or anyone else's. And I'll see you next week. But until then, go play with stationery and make some time for this hobby and to have fun with your supplies. Okay? I appreciate you all. Bye. Have a good one.